is it that a narcissist can turn any conversation into an argument like that? Well, it's because narcissists look at everything transactionally, and conversations in particular can easily turn into a game of I win, you lose. And if you want to be the one who wins, there are 5 questions you need to ask yourself first. That's what we're talking about in today's video. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Common Ego community. My name is Christina. On this channel, we talk about all things emotional abuse and healing. And if you clicked on this video today, I know that there's someone in your life who is a toxic influence. And I have a guide to help you deal with those difficult personalities. It's free. Just check it out in the description box below if you're interested. So now I want to jump right in with the questions you need to ask yourself before you go into an argument with a narcissist. Getting clear on these things is really going to help you win in that conversation, because really what winning is in this case is not letting the narcissist get exactly what they want out of you. So let's start with the first question. This is the first thing you should ask yourself before you go into this conversation with a narcissist. And that is, am I obligated to have this conversation? And I know this may seem like an easy question, but there are so many times when our ego takes center stage and we feel like we have to have a conversation, but we don't really. So ask yourself if you are legally obligated, or if you're morally obligated, or if somehow the relationship that you have with the narcissist creates some sort of obligation for you. So for example, if you have kids with a narcissist, you might not be legally bound to share certain things, but you might feel a moral obligation to tell them about what's going on with their child. If the narcissist in your life is your boss, you may have some obligation because of that relationship to talk to them about certain things. So think about the types of obligations that you have to this person and whether it is truly necessary to have this conversation. Because if you can get around it, and especially if it's just your ego, if you're wanting to be right or show them how wrong they are, this is a conversation you can skip. And I know to some of you that may feel like you're letting them get away with something or you're winning. But if you've had enough conversations or arguments with narcissists, you know that winning is really getting out of those interactions entirely. That's how you truly win. All right, so if we're still thinking about having this conversation, you've answered yes to the obligation question. Now, let's think about what your goal is. Remember, the narcissist is looking at this transactionally, and it's okay for you to do the same thing. So as you're defining your goals for this discussion, keep it real. Be very real with yourself. If you're looking for the narcissist's respect or their approval, this conversation is a lost cause. Now, let's think about what your goal is. What do you want to walk away with? And it's really important to outline this because as you go into that conversation, you're going to want to keep your eye on that prize because the narcissist is going to do everything they can to knock you up, down, and sideways off of your topic. And if they're successful, you're going to walk away wondering how you could have even let that happen. But if you keep your goal as a North Star in that conversation, always bring it back to that. You're much more likely to get what you want out of this conversation. Listen, it's probably still going to be irritating. There's probably still going to be word salad and many attempts to throw you off course. But just stay the course and keep your goal top of mind. The third question you need to ask yourself before going into this conversation is how strongly you feel about this topic. So if you're talking about multiple things, let's say, and some things are important to you and some things are not, when you're having a conversation with a narcissist, it can feel like you have to win everything because you don't want them to win anything. It can very easily become a battle of egos. And if you go down that road, you're giving the narcissist exactly what they want. So think about it before you go into this conversation. Are there things that you don't really care about? And maybe those are things that you can let go of. But make sure that your goals for the conversation involve the things that are really sticking points for you. The next question you need to ask yourself before having a conversation, a discussion, an argument with a narcissist is, are you capable of doing this right now without being emotional? And if not, then you may have some work to do. Because unfortunately, a narcissist is very good at using your emotions against you. And one way that they'll do this is by gaslighting you and implying or outright saying that you're over emotional, that you're not capable of having this conversation. And if you have lost control of your emotions in that moment, you're going to walk away feeling bad. You're going to take all of that they said on yourself. So while there's nothing wrong with showing emotion sometimes, you want to really try to rein that in when you're dealing with a narcissist. So if the answer is that you are too emotional in the moment, I would suggest, if at all possible, delaying the conversation and trying to work on that. While you want to be careful not to fall into the category of overthinking or rumination, you may want to talk through some practice conversations with a friend. And if it's time sensitive, if you need to have this conversation and you're afraid that you're going to get emotional, think about other ways that you can have the conversation where you're not going to be showing so much emotion. So if it has to be in person, in a public place, you might be more conscious of your environment and less likely to feel so vulnerable. Or maybe you can have this conversation on the phone where you can mute yourself if you're starting to feel your voice breaking up. Or maybe you have it over text or email. Now, there are things that are lost in text and email, and they're not always the best choices, but sometimes they are, because the text and email also provide a trail of evidence. And the next thing to ask yourself before you get into this conversation or argument with a narcissist is, are you willing to walk away without getting a resolution? This one comes back to holding your boundaries. So there may be some time-sensitive conversations where you actually can't walk away. But I find that with most things, you can take at least a little bit of space. And that's something that's really important to do if the narcissist is pushing your boundaries. Because if you want to win with any narcissist, even at the smallest of wins, you need to hold your boundaries. They need to know that they cannot walk all over you. And if you're wondering what boundaries you should hold with a narcissist, I have a video that I'll link to right here that outlines it completely. There are 10 boundaries that you really need to have with a narcissist in your life. So go ahead and click on that video, but not before you click on the like button. That button actually does help YouTube know that this video was valuable and helpful, and that more people might need to see it. And with that, I'll see you next week.